All right, we're about 35 days into our trip, and I just thought I would take you through how we've packed and organized. There's a few things that we've done differently this year compared to last year, even though last year we did 30 days. And we've made some really big improvements, at least we think so. And so maybe it's helpful for you. We really haven't taken any time to clean things up. I'm not trying to show some polished fake version of what it looks like to be on the road. We washed the car today and vacuumed it because it was pretty dusty from our time in Glacier because the road was under construction. So there's lots of dust, and I put away one or two little things just because they were in the way. But in general, I've not made any major modifications. So yeah, so the front is nothing spectacular. This always ends up being, you know, wallet, binoculars, a pair of sleeping socks, water. You may have seen my video on how I separate the keys and why I do that. One little modification I made up here is down here, you would normally have your 12-volt outlet like a cigarette lighter. When you spend this much time in the car, little things that won't bother you in normal life bother you out here. So instead of having the audio cable going in here and the cables for our phones going in here, which would be really annoying, I removed this whole piece, took them out of their sockets, and then I routed one iPhone cable up here, and I basically just lay my phone here. I routed one cable up here to my wife's phone and the aux in, because that's how we listen to music and audiobooks and things like that. So that's it probably took a half hour, maybe. Take someone else maybe a little bit longer, but it's so nice to not have cables and cords running everywhere. And it allows us to have this little basket here for a bunch of odds and ends. So this is kind of a catch-all at the moment. We have an onion, some apples, some coffee creamers, kids socks, so on and so forth. Yeah, so then the next really big change we made from last time is we brought two coolers. We have the big cooler in the back, which you'll see in a minute, and we have the smaller, I think this is a 18 liter, it's an Igloo from here. And this kind of has like what we think we're going to be eating for the day, so that we don't have to go to the trunk all the time. And we removed the center console. It's just 3 bolts that's normally here, and we put this here. We lived with it for a couple days and realized this surface was too slippery, so we added some carpet. And then also, let me just remove this. We added a small piece of wood that goes between these just to keep it from sliding forward and smashing into the cup holders. So yeah, if you can add something and then live with it for a couple days, you'll quickly realize where it's going to annoy you and let you down before you get on your trip. Yeah, so my wife's area is kind of a backpack, catch-all, trash can, trash bag, that kind of stuff. And then I'll take you into the back where the kids are. All right, so we have 3 kids, 6, 8, and 10. So one is still in a booster, the other is not. So yeah, they each have a seat, as you'd expect. It's kind of obvious. And yeah, we put up some string between the belts so that they can hang all their little bits and pieces, pocket knives, flashlights, walkie-talkies, and then they have the cup holders, as you'd expect, cubbies and things like that. And then on this side the same, although my 6-year-old is not utilizing his quite as much as my 8-year-old. Yeah, and then they've hung stuff from the seat belts, bags, things like that. One thing from last year was the floor was just always full of clothes and toys and books and markers and trash, and so we tried to do something that would utilize that space a little bit better. The kids tuck their shoes here underneath. That's been a really good solution. We also have the fishing gear underneath there. And then for my daughter at the moment, who's in the center, who doesn't have the sides, she has a box here in front of her for her feet and to put things that she has. Yeah, so then from the kids' perspective, this is what it looks like. So we have 2 of these boxes from Home Depot. Stairlight is the brand. You'll find that you really appreciate clear boxes over opaque. Because it's so much easier to find stuff. So I'd really suggest that. And this is basically dry food that doesn't need to be refrigerated. And this is sort of stuff we're not going to use the first 3 or 4 days, and then the stuff we are going to use more of. Then we have, let me just move these really quick. Obviously we have, so this is basically my day hiking bag that I use. And then this is like my tent bag. So in here I would have like pajamas, toiletries, stuff that goes back and forth to the tent. And this is like hiking stuff. So water purification, stuff for blisters, first aid kit, picnic blanket. And this was kind of a lessons learned from last year. Last time I only brought this bag and I was constantly flipping, like, okay, take out all the stuff I had on it during the day so that I can go into the tent. We also had some walk-in campsites last year where the tent was like, I don't know, 100 yards maybe, or a little more than 100 yards from the car. So you kind of had to always carry stuff back and forth. And having one bag and always flipping its contents was really annoying. So 2 bags for me. My wife has basically the same setup, something like this, and then a more collapsible bag. On this side, we have some stuff of the kids. But mainly what I wanted to show you was basically we have 2 IKEA boxes on each side. This is my youngest son's clothes, my oldest son's clothes, my daughter's clothes, and my wife's clothes. That's worked really well to give the kids some ownership of their space and their stuff. And it's still a little chaotic and we still got to help sometimes, but it's been really helpful. The other thing that's been really helpful is, and I wish I had done more, I basically took some thick wire and added a hook to the back of this. So this is where I always hang my bag. That's been awesome. I wish I had several more of those. And you can see that because we added these carabiners. So my kids have been hanging their bags there. The other thing, so basically each of the kids have a water bottle. We, as backpackers, you tend to measure and weigh everything you carry, and you find that smart water bottles or disposable water bottles like this are about 1/6 the weight of a Nalgene or similar. You also don't have to worry about if they get lost. And we've lost 2 of these so far, and of the 6 Nalgene style water bottles that we've purchased for our kids over the years, 3 of them have gotten lost. So this is costs a little bit more than the Nalgenes you might already have at home, but you don't have to worry about if they get lost as much. So it reduces stress a little bit. It also reduces weight on long hikes. Anyway, so each kid has one of those. My wife has a slightly taller one, and then I have the 1.5 liter. And then we keep 2 gallons hanging from these straps. The straps in and of themselves were super helpful. We threw them in at the last minute because we remembered that these things were always sort of jostling on the ground and you're always worried that it's gonna split and spill water everywhere. All we did was hang on to some milk cartons. Milk cartons typically have a screw-on cap, whereas water cartons normally have a pop-on cap because the milk people know that it's a bigger deal if the milk spills. And these have been with us now for 35 days and are perfectly fine. So for a family of 5, a water bottle for everybody, a bigger one for mom and dad, and 2 of those has been good through Arches, Canyonlands, all those places. Okay, I think that covers the back pretty well. Yeah, so then basically if you pull these out, that's where I keep 2 pairs of shoes there. My wife keeps 2 pairs of shoes on the other side. And then in the back, yeah, so we have the big cooler, which we also brought last year, and that was when we found out it was really a pain in the butt always having everything in the back. Here's the tent, the 6-man tent. And then this is a box of my clothes. And this is a box of basically everything that goes to the tent when we get to camp. So basically in here we have, well, I'll do a different video on some of the tech stuff that we do. Then we have what we call the gear box. So this is where we have the folding saw, extra cords, extra rope, the hammock, batteries, lighters, the pump, carving tools, kind of like a miscellaneous stuff. He's floating around at the moment. Then we have what we call the kitchen box, which at the moment's kind of empty. So we keep the stoves in there. Along the way on this trip, we actually bought 2 bins. We bought the tent bin and we bought the bin for my daughter. And we kind of realized we kind of bought 1 bin too many because now the kitchen bin has been kind of empty. But it's sometimes nice to have extra space because when you get disorganized, you tend to not want to Tetris everything into place. Okay, then we have something I regret bringing, which is these 3 folding chairs. Last year we brought 5. 5 was too many. This year we brought 3. And honestly, we're more of a hiking family than we are a sit around at camp all night. So these have barely gotten any use. Nonetheless, yeah, then you have the cooler. Then you have this. You may have seen another video. We use these to sleep on for the kids. This is the blanket that we use for a variety of things, which includes putting it on this for some padding and some warmth for the kids. That's our inflatable mattress. And then in this big duffel bag is all 4 sleeping bags. Even though there's 5 of us, my wife and I have a double sleeping bag. And that's it. Another little modification we made to the car, which was pretty handy, is putting these little cable ties on the back of the headrests and clips. It's really nice to be able to clip stuff on there, because if you consider when we get to a place like Olympic for 6 nights, you know, that's not in the car, that's not in the car, these things aren't in the car. So this opens up quite a bit, and it's nice to hang backpacks there. Last, we have another small modification. This is what I call the garage. So basically where the tools go, I have a Fluke multimeter in there. I have some pliers, a couple things. I also have some extra money in here, checkbook, credit cards, things like that, that I don't really need and I don't really want to leave in the glove box. Also, this used to be a cigarette lighter outlet. But again, when you're using this kind of stuff and it hangs out that much and every little inch counts, it pays to modify things. So I popped that guy out and just hang it in here. And then I ran 2 micro USBs up through here. No tools required. You can do this all by hand. Up through here, pop it out of the vent. And then this is where I charge our power bank for the tent and a second power bank for hikes. That kind of thing. And again, that might seem like ridiculous because you could just leave this stuff, you could just leave this plugged in like that. But honestly, when you spend so much time on the road and you know, it's raining and it's cold and you're putting everything away, you don't want to worry about busting those things off. And so little modifications like that you can make before you leave, I think really pay off. So yeah, that's kind of a tour of the car. Kind of a loose overview of what we brought and how we've organized it. And then I'll just say a few comments as to what we did this time, which was different than last time. So last time we took from Home Depot 3 or 4 of the big black bins with yellow lids. We kind of thought more is better, or bigger is better. And we had them stacked up here and we had them stacked up in the center. Watch out, baby. And basically they came like all the way to here. And we also had we had a yellow bin up to here. The kids could barely even use this side. And then the cooler was over there. And the problem was that because the manufacturers want the bins to nest, they're not really like a rectangle. They're like a trapezoid so that they can nest into each other. And that means that you had a lot of wasted space here at the bottom because they're like a trapezoid, basically. The second problem was they were so big and so heavy that basically my wife and I had to always be the ones to move them. And in some cases, only I could move them. And that was a problem because then you can't ask your kids like, hey, grab this or grab that. And we don't want to work the kids to death out here, but we do want them to be a part of the process and learning responsibility. And so smaller bins that they can manage are much better. The other thing was with the big bins is they were so big and heavy that like we had to like lift one up while somebody else opened up the lid and snuck in to grab something, and you didn't know what was in each bin because they were black and opaque. You couldn't see in them. And so in this case, smaller, more manageable pieces was better. I will also say we brought less this time than last time. We brought less chairs. We brought less clothes. We also used a sleeping bag this time for my wife and I, whereas last time we used bedding. We thought that bedding would be a little bit more homey for 30 nights, and we didn't necessarily need the efficiency of a sleeping bag. In the end, it was nice to sleep in, but it was also quite a bit more bulky. So yeah, and then I think maybe the last thing it makes sense to show is the organization of the cooler. This was just something we had come up with over the years, bringing different types of bins to organize your food in. This one goes all the way down to the bottom, so it's kind of like a divider, and that can be really handy because coolers can just be super chaotic when you're trying to get in there. So I think that's about it. I hope that was helpful for some of you. My biggest suggestion would be try and bring a little bit less than you think you need, because you can probably get by with less. And whatever system you're going to use, try it for like a week or two before you leave on your trip. Even if it's just driving around town, you'll learn that, you know, things slosh back and forth, and, you know, the cooler runs into the cup holder, and just little things like that. Look at all those bugs. You'll learn those things, and then you can maybe put in a solution before you leave and have to live with that for a big trip. So, all right, kind of a boring video just about organization, but if you're like me, you probably really appreciated it. And I hope it helps. Take care.